Your birth chart has a wealth of information that can help you understand yourself on a deeper level, including why you feel like an outsider. In fact, there's one really specific place that you can look in your chart that I bet you haven't heard of before to help you see exactly where that shows up for you. It's called out of bounds. And today I'm going to explain what it is, what it means, and how to find it in your birth chart for free. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Dana Solara. I'm an astrologer and spiritual coach. I love teaching people how to use their birth chart for deeper self-awareness. I really believe astrology is a tool, not just any tool, a spiritual tool. I've often called it a spiritual Swiss Army knife because it can really help us with so many things in service of living a deeply fulfilling, purpose-driven life, which is to say, a life aligned with your spirit and your soul. Now, part of that journey is using your birth chart to understand yourself on a soul level. And many of us who are interested in astrology find ourselves feeling like outsiders, like we don't belong, like the way we think or feel or act or what we want is outside the norm. And finding that in your chart can be deeply satisfying and clarifying because it helps you, first of all, accept yourself. That's the most important thing. It helps you see, like, this is who I am. I'm not weird or different, or maybe I am, but like, it's part of me. And so I love myself anyway. That's the beauty of astrology for me, especially birth chart work. But it also gives you language for your inner world that can help you feel more at peace with having those feelings in the first place. So this is a really powerful thing for us. And so I want to tell you about this technique because I just stumbled upon it recently. I've been practicing astrology professionally for 5 years, and my main learning path was through the Hellenistic lineage or paradigm, which is very traditional. It's rooted in ancient Greek techniques. And I have found so much value in practicing Hellenistic astrology, and I believe those techniques are incredible and you really don't need more. However, out of bounds, a more modern technique that, again, I just kind of fell into the other day, I found it very compelling. And so I knew immediately I had to tell you guys about it. So let's talk about it. To understand out of bounds, you have to understand declination. So what is declination? The sky has its own version of latitude, how far north or south a planet sits from the celestial equator. And the sun has a perimeter, a bound, if you will, of how far north or south it will go on that line. So the sun's path is tilted at 23 degrees, 26 arc minutes, which means it only ever gets that far north or south of the equator. And it hits those extremes of north and south, 23, 26 north, 23, 26 south at the solstices. Now, out of bounds happens when a planet goes beyond that boundary, when it goes past that north or south line of 23 degrees, 26 arc minutes, farther than the sun ever travels. So what that means is it's off the map, so to speak. It's outside the sun's jurisdiction. Now, ancient astrologers definitely knew about declination. They were really, and as much as they were astrologers, but the interpretation that I'm about to give you is distinctly modern, mostly from Stephen Forrest, who is a pioneer in evolutionary astrology. And from what I can tell in my research, there are some different takes on the symbolism of out of bounds. Some say that if a planet is beyond that 23, 26 declination, regardless of how far away it is, we just kind of read it wholesale as being out of bounds. But you'll see other people say that the further away, the more intense it is. And so you can do your research and see what you think based on your chart. But let's talk a little bit more about what out of bounds symbolizes now that we understand the technicality of it. Just like in a birth chart, we read the faster moving, more personal planets going out of bounds as a more personal thing, and the outer planets going out of bounds, the slower moving planets, as more of a generational thing, because they're going to be out of bounds for longer periods of time, years or even decades. The moon is the first planet we'll talk about, and this is the planet that's going to go out of bounds the most because the moon moves very quickly. The moon is the emotional body. It's your sense of safety, security, comfort. It's your general fate and fortune as well in the Hellenistic or traditional paradigm, so it's a lot about your circumstances. And when the moon is out of bounds in a birth chart, what that can indicate is you feel like you don't belong. Your feelings themselves may feel like past the normal range, so to speak, like you get more upset or more bothered or more excited than a typical person does about any situation that arouses your feelings. And you might soothe yourself in ways that look unconventional. Remember, out of bounds as a whole is really just symbolic of not fitting the norm. You are outside the boundaries of the sun, so there's something about that planet that is outside the norm. So when it's the moon, it's your feelings, it's your sense of safety and security, it's the way you seek safety and security, the way you seek comfort are a little unorthodox, a little different, a little weird. It could be that your actual circumstances, you find yourself in places and situations that are fringe. This is where Out of Bounds really struck me, because I think there's a way we can blend Hellenistic and modern approaches here, because this out of bounds symbolism that I'm giving you is very much a modern practice. But in the Hellenistic view, one of the first things we look at in a birth chart is sect. Sect divides the planets into teams based on whether you were born in the day or the night. And if you're born at night, the moon is your sect light, which is to say the moon can say a lot about you personally. So if you were born at night and your moon is out of bounds, which is exactly what I discovered in my birth chart, it can say a lot about you personally feeling like you don't belong, like you might feel like an outsider. And that might be a really defining feeling or outlook in your perspective that shapes the way you move through the world. And importantly, because the moon can be about your external circumstances, those things that you're not really choosing that just kind of happen to you, then it's not like you're choosing to be an outsider necessarily. It's that the things you like are fringe. The things that make you feel good or safe or comfortable are fringe or outsider or weird. And the circumstances you're in, label them as such, right? So knowing that is very cathartic and healing, because it allows you to embrace and love yourself in a whole new way that you maybe wouldn't have been able to without understanding that. And so that's the moon. But let's talk about the other personal planets. If Mercury is out of balance in your chart, this is your mind thinking outside the box. And so an inventor, someone with innovative ideas, could be a person with Mercury out of bounds. This is a person who thinks and speaks outside of what's expected and perhaps understands things on a level that other people just wouldn't be able to, because they don't have that vantage point. A Mercury that's out of bounds has a vantage point that's from the outside, right? Someone who's kind of standing on the wall and observing everything happen. They can see things in a way that people who are in the mix cannot. So this is an outsider's mind when Mercury is out of bounds, but there's certainly a gift with it as well, because you can connect dots in ways that other people cannot. When Venus is out of bounds, this is your values, taste, and what you're attracted to being outside of what's conventional. You perhaps love and want things that other people find weird or distasteful or taboo even. And so if you were born with Venus out of bounds, I think it's important for you to accept that you love what you love and that's okay, as long as you're not hurting anybody or doing any violence or damage. Of course, you can love what you love, and that can be okay even if other people don't get it. When Mars is out of bounds, your drive and appetite go past the normal limits. You are willing to go for it in a way that most people are not. So I think someone with Mars out of bounds would be extremely driven to a point where other people are like, Jesus, calm down. And that might kind of make you a little, obviously, unsure of yourself. It might make you feel a little weird or out of place, or like it's wrong for you to feel that strongly about how you feel. I think it's extraordinary at its best, because this is someone that could really do anything, but it can be quite reckless and violent at its worst, of course, because it's someone whose passion knows no bounds. Now, Jupiter going out of bounds is really rare. This is where belief, meaning, and your vision refuse the usual boundaries. I think I'm going to do a follow-up episode where we look at examples of these. I didn't have time to do that kind of research before recording this, but I'll do some chart research and see if we can find some good examples of this so we can see how it shows up in someone's actual life. But I imagine someone who, like Martin Luther King or someone like Gandhi, like someone who is willing to stand up for their principles even when it was quite unpopular. Someone like Copernicus, someone like Galileo, right? Someone like Martin Luther, who had a strong principled stance to make, and it was not the popular one, but they did it anyway. That's what I think of with Jupiter out of bounds. Now, when Uranus and Pluto go out of bounds, this is going to be like entire generational cohorts. So it's not unique to you, but it is worth considering and worth thinking about. Pluto is actually out of bounds right now from 2024 into the early 2040s. So anyone who's born 20 through 2040 is going to have Pluto out of bounds. Power coming from a place that is not the norm. And we might have to kind of sit with and think about what that might mean, but there's something about power and the way you get it being outside of the norm. And with Uranus, about innovation, it's about breakthrough, it's about the eureka moment, metaphorically speaking. And so I think super broadly speaking, we could say generational cohorts with Pluto and or Uranus out of bounds, they're going to be sort of defined by doing things quite differently. It really makes me wonder, knowing that children who are being born now are going to have Pluto out of bounds, if they're not going to find a way to flip the script with the extractive capitalism we've been living under for so long. I have a belief that millennials, the Pluto and Scorpio generation, are here to kind of kick that off, which I'm going to talk more about in the midlife transits series for millennials that I've been working on. But if that's the case, it would be really cool to see this current generation, what are we calling them, Gen Alpha? I'm not sure what they're called, but this new generation that's being born now really take those structures and dissolve them and rebuild something new, kind of composting that old into something that's gives power to everybody, which I would love to see personally. The Sun, Saturn, and Neptune don't go out of bounds. And so we don't have much to say about them, except they're not going to be out of bounds in your chart. But I think we're ready to go ahead and take a look at how to find this on AstroSeek. I'm going to use AstroSeek to show you because it's free and it's pretty user-friendly. Obviously, if you have astrology software, you can find this there too. And I'll show you how to do that with AstroGold once we're done with AstroSeek. So we're looking at a page that you get to from the birth chart. So I'm actually going to go back. To get to the birth chart page, you're going to go to free horoscopes, birth chart, and enter your birth chart details. And then what you'll do is in these different little tabs, you're going to click on positions. And this right here is the declination. If you see any planet that's over 23 degrees, 26 arc minutes, or under negative 23 degrees, 26 arc minutes, you have a planet that's out of bounds. And so this chart that was just a random chart I entered, you can see negative 23.37. That is below negative 23.26. And so it is out of bounds. And you can see that it's noted here. This planet is out of bounds. It's out of the boundary. And nothing happens when you click on it. I'm clicking on it. Nothing is happening, but it will just show you. So it's very easy to know if a planet is out of bounds or not. I will also show you, I'll just put my chart up really quick. If you have AstroGold, which is a professional software for Mac, if you click on a planet, it will show you the declination here. And so you can see that my moon is way over. It's like 5 degrees over that boundary of 23 degrees, 26 arc minutes. And so I found it quite helpful to dig into this technique and go even deeper on my natal moon, which I thought I already knew a lot about, but this just gave me another added layer and really reinforced what I already knew. There's a rule in astrology called the rule of 3 that if you see it one time in a chart, it's like, something to note. If you see it twice, pay more attention. And if you see it 3 times, then it's an important theme to pay attention to. And for me, I see that theme of being an outsider, not just from this declination here, but also from my natal Saturn in the 4th, from Uranus in the 4th, and a couple of other things as well. So it's fascinating when you get deep into the nuance of your placements, you can start to really see how the patterns show up over and over again and get a deep felt sense of what your soul is here to do in this lifetime. So let me know what your questions are in the comments. I'm looking forward to doing some research on this and finding some examples of people with planets out of bounds and see if we can really see what this looks like in real life. But tell me what you have out of bounds and how that's shown up for you, what kind of sense you're making of your placements through this lens of out of bounds placements. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what else you want me to make videos about. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.